You back to the last part of today, and it will be one of the first so welcome to the last part of this seminar. We will have a short panel, and it will be in English, and it will be translated on Zoom. And we will have Olena, Olynyk with us online. Do we have her? You are here? Fantastic. And Oleg Drozdov. And Ola Podushkina, would you please accompany us? And Hans Ryd will be in the panel as well, together with Helena Bjarnegård. We will also have time for a few questions and some discussion afterwards, and we will be talking amongst us for approximately half an hour. So that's the time we have today. So we've heard a lot during today, lots of talks and a lot of examples. We're very happy about that. We have a very important question that we would like to bring up for discussion. And that is what the role of architecture will be in the transformation of Ukraine. Not an easy question to answer, but definitely one of the most important ones we have. So, Olena, would you start by touching on the subject?
Дякую за ваше запитання. Це дійсно одна з найважливіших.
Thank you for your question. Definitely, it's one of the key points in forming the shape and the development of the country, the role of architecture. When I was researching of the architecture of totalitarianism, I paid attention that totalitarian spaces were different from the spaces of democratic countries and how it influenced the consciousness of people. And also important role
були радикально перебудовані після Другої світової війни згідно з новою радянською ідентичністю.
It was also our cities were influenced a lot by the things that after Second World War, our cities were rebuilt with new Soviet identity. And only in Kyiv and few cities, they preserved the original identity.
Ті самі помилки, відбудовувати міста, але створюючи нові демократичні публічні простори.
We need to rebuild our cities with the new public democratic spaces. And that's why, while rethinking our role of architecture and how we will rebuild our cities after this war, we should not repeat the mistakes from the past.
Thank you. Oleg, Drozdov, would you like to touch on the subject?
Yeah, thank you so much. I could say that we in an epoch of transition, never before we used to live in environment which will driving industrialization, and last 25 years it's always all changes in the built environment, what happened, are mostly driving by speculation processes. And we came in completely other paradigm, and maybe a role of architects very important to understand of quality and importance of software, and also understanding that architecture not anymore will be have to have a of spaces what we created, and these terms a lot of additional role we have like we try to introduce and shape our dream, but also to find a relation between community building, social quality of the life, and architecture of the future. And also clear there's a mission of new relation between each other, and relation architecture and people. It's very important. And this is understanding of discipline quite new for Ukraine. It means it needs to be introduced a methodology of participation, a process, decision-making process, and maybe also a restructuring process of designing and negotiation. And I think a lot of things have to be restructured, and also understanding that our success could be only in field of quite a wide cooperation between professional experts, engineers, and representative society and governments. And yeah, a lot of things have to be done in terms of organization of these processes and decision making. And I think architect as a person which educated in between humanitarian and technical discipline has like a superposition for that kind of moderation or interaction between a different interests and discipline and layers in one time.
Thank you. There will be, of course, a lot of interests that stand for different, that have different expectations. Hans, you've been listening all day, and you have brought up the topic of memory. What's your what are your thoughts on this?
A first reflection in the relation to the general question, I think this has proven in many different and very inspiring ways that the architect is indeed a key figure in the reconstruction of a society which has been destroyed on this scale, and that it's not only a question of a technical task of rebuilding infrastructure and cities, but of also becoming an architect maybe in the old, almost etymological sense of the word, as some word, as somebody thinking about the principal issues, a technician of original issues. And I was inspired by many of the talks, and I mean, it's clear that this enormous challenge is already triggering a lot of almost utopian energy, as the project presented by Filimonov and Karolina, which contains so many fine ideas. People in the middle of an ongoing war who are thinking in such creative and systematic ways. But for me personally, in relation to what I addressed, it was Irina Matsevko's talk that sort of really, I think, filled in very, very many important gaps. because what you're addressing in terms of how to handle the hybrid and multi-layered heritage of Ukraine, I think this is a topic where thinking architects can have a huge importance, and where people who address the kind of questions that you do are also taking risks, because society is under stress and society is under war. The need for purified identity, as we know, becomes very strong. And we have seen that also in the Baltic countries, did not suffer war, but the threat of invasion. So how a society which rises again can, in a material sense, give meaning to its own multi-layered past. For me, this is very, very sort of what I took back from this day, and I was impressed by the way you presented this. Thank you.
That gives us a lot to pick up in our discussion, but Ola, what are your thoughts of today?
Загальний коментар
Olha,
про
okay.
архітектора у відбудові сучасному. І Лена перекладала. Тобто короткими порціями.
Так. Ви знаєте, з моменту розпаду СРСР
When Soviet Union fell apart,
якоїсь комплексної підходу до формування містобудівного підходу.
There is no complex approach to urban planning yet.
Окей. І на сьогоднішній день війна нам дає це право згадати свою ідентичність, згадати те, що є професіональні спільноти, є ті, які можуть надати.
And this war also gives us a chance and a gift to think about our identity, first of all, and then to be reminded that we have professional communities who are capable of
надати той комплексний шлях, який ми сьогодні очікуємо, за який сьогодні Україна виборює. І якраз це надає можливість і архітекторам, і іншим спеціалістам цієї галузі дати свої пропозиції, дати розвиток і дати майбутнє для розвитку нашої країни і її містобудівної та архітектурної направленості.
And this professional community are very capable of giving their suggestions and proposals to the government and to the country about this complex plan, how to rebuild Ukraine, complex plan for urban planning and for architectural profession, architecture as a whole.
Головне, щоб кожен з професіоналів пам'ятав, що людина і її потреби саме в соціумі – це головне те, що відрізняло нас від європейських чинників і демократичних засад.
And it's very important that we as actors remember that people and their needs are the most important things to take in consideration while preparing these complex suggestions.
Thank you. Helena, you have been listening all day. You have been working with these questions for a long time now. And how do you see, what do you see as the biggest challenge, and what are your thoughts after today?
My thoughts after today is that when we put architecture in the middle of the discussion, as we have done today, we can connect, as we have done in this room today, and we can also look at the base challenges as having a shelter, having somewhere to live, have a place that you have a sense of belonging to. We can also move up to the very societal level and see that working with architecture is building a society, is understanding a society, is working with the most difficult issues in society as you lifted, with identity and cultural heritage and so on. So when we work with architecture, as we've done today, we can address all the difficult questions that we have and also see what we need to work with and how we can do it. And today, I think the most important thing has been that we have connected and together created images of what architecture can be, both on a very big societal level and also as a way of addressing the most difficult questions that we have in front of us. And I think that architecture in this way also gives us courage. Actually, I thought that the Swedes who were here today, we were supposed to give you, Ukrainian people, courage today to be able to move on in this difficult time. But I really think it has been the other way around. You've given me courage because you have explained to me, all of you, that architecture is so fundamentally important, both for the very basic things in life, but also for building a society, addressing all the difficult issues. So I've gained hope today and courage to work even harder with those questions in Sweden, actually. So architecture it's a lot here, and we put it in the middle. We can address the most difficult questions of our time together.
Today has been a very rich day and a lot of examples of city planning and projects that we have seen that are worked with during these harsh times, but also the importance of the memories of the building that has been there before and that will still be there, but also of architecture as non-building. The spaces in between and the places, not only in the public space, but also in the communication. So I would like to talk about that a little bit, and also about the courage and planning the future when we don't know what the future is. So I would like to make a round and maybe invite Helena to say something about that, and then we just go around the round between us.
We've also been talking about culture today, and culture as a tool, culture as something that we need to address, need to understand as identity. For example, we've been talking about culture as a tool for inclusion, dialogue, to bring in the culture to the projects, and the culture that we make the future of Ukraine. What are the images? How do we set that culture, and what do we want? So I think that has been an important question that I have heard in all the projects and discussions that we have had today, actually. What is the culture that we start with? What is the inclusion culture that how can we work in those processes? And what are the future images of Ukraine? What culture do we want to make for the future? Stop there.
Oleg, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I do. I think it's a lot of work to the day of development of public contract. I mean, it's also articulation of values and maybe like a shaping a dream or destination point, what we already some running forward this direction, and this is quite important work. It's always will be about a common, I don't know, public space, like a social and mental space, which we have to create. It not exist. It's just like small sketches how it could be, but it's quite a long discussion how to shape it. And maybe we on a way to it or possible to reach like a deep common understanding of these goals. It's possible only from a small pilot, which could be possibility to make mistake, but also to discuss like a next step. And I think the importance of placemaking there to check this like a common quality and a little bit also to test model of our behavior, our communication between each other. It will be quite important. That's why in our school we plan to develop together urban design and urban planning program, because also it will be strategic and tactical thinking as one of the process of transformation.
Pilot projects always have the benefit of being fast, and also you can discuss the outcome, and you don't have to be in a consensus situation before you get into a pilot project. So that could be that's another way of having a panel. It's quite a doing discussion. Olena, you raised your hand, please.
Так, я хотіла теж доповнити свої думки з приводу майбутньої відбудови України.
I want to continue talking and fill in on the thoughts about future reconstruction of Ukraine. Idea of victory, idea of identity should be implemented on 3 levels. In urban planning, in how we plan cities, with ideas of identity and European democracy. That's the first level. New images of architecture from one side on the basis of traditional Ukrainian architecture. On the other side, is the country, a victory country. How does that is embedded? And the third one, memorialization of victory, memorialization of memory and losses. Those 120,000 people that have already died, and that even more will die. They are courageous soldiers and civil people that we lost during this war. So these 3 points we have to combine somehow with European democratic traditions. And not only to implement ideas of European democracy, it should have an aspect of protection. So defense aspect. We cannot allow that this happens again in the future. So that's why these 3 main directions: European democracy, defense ability of architecture and space in urban space, protection of the population, and new and traditional Ukrainian identity, embedded in all aspects of the architecture. These are those directions that we need to focus, together with education, architecture, raising the professionalism and all other things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olena. Planning it can be a very short process. It can also be a very long process, and it takes courage, as Helena said, to engage in planning and architecture. But it also takes courage in thinking first and then doing, and making these short decisions and the long-term decisions at the same time is a very difficult thing. I'm not sure if you can comment on that. Yes, Hans, but I think it has something to do with the topics that you have enlightened us with today.
Yes, it definitely have, but I'd like to, since short time, I want to take one more thread to pick up that I hope is a response to this, because it's really, and this has to do with Ryan's presentation, Ryan Knox's presentation, because when I was thinking ahead a little bit to the seminar, I read an essay that I recommend you to read from the New York Review of Books earlier this year. In January, they had an essay by Tim Judah, who has published a book about wartime Ukraine. And he makes comparison between the post-war situation in Yugoslavia and what can be expected in Ukraine, and the kind of difficulties and also disappointments for which one must sort of prepare mentally in terms of how things will develop once peace is there and once the society is being rebuilt. And he's also discussing the problem that arises precisely when you go in with a lot of support in order to rebuild infrastructure, and the risks involved in when this kind of money is suddenly pushed into a society in a short-term basis, because where that money does not end up in the right place, that it's not doing the work it should do, that it creates new inequalities. And I mean, the only way, so I can imagine, to avoid this is, of course, to discuss already at this point the kind of questions that you were addressing and other people are thinking about. What kind of institutional structures can secure that the kind of aid that is needed will not produce new kind of problems where architects will find themselves in a place where they will not feel so comfortable, because suddenly you're in the middle of huge schemes. So to be an active part also in the political and institutional functioning of how this support is going to happen, I think it's another important role for architects to be, that has to do with more with politics and institutions, but I think it's really crucial.
Definitely a question to talk more about. I'm sorry to say our time is soon up, but before we will invite you to for questions and another, maybe just a comment, I would like Helena to say something and to wrap our panel up.
I can quote you the starting words, that we need to build hope. And at least I feel much more hopeful after today. And I can see there are so many, so large engagement, so much will to do something good. And there are a lot of persons with high knowledge working together, wanting to do something good for the future together. And that gives me so much hope. And I just want to say, continue to do that. Continue to feel engaged. Continue to, keep up to this hope and, continue to work. And I think the work with architecture and those issues also can give us hope, all of us hope, and build knowledge together to make the hope become real one day.
Thank you. Also, the importance of posing the difficult questions and not resting in an idea that we know the answers already. I find like one of the most important things I learned today, to have the courage to ask once again and lift the difficult topics. Please, if there is anyone who wants to comment on today shortly, I think we should give some space for that before we end the panel discussion today. Is there anyone in the room, or Mikael, do you have anyone online who has raised their hand?
Not yet.
In the Zoom
way. Many who are encouraged to say something.
Please do.
I would like to encourage.
I would like a comment by Olena, perhaps. Are you there with us? Or let's see others.
While we're waiting, could we?
Yeah, I would like to ask Keyzer.
Or maybe later night I would like to.
SKR just left. Salar just left, but I can ask you. We need to work together, and we need to work on different layers in the society, and you've been doing that. You've been a consultant, architect, you've been working as director for city planning in Malmö, you've been working on a national level, and you've seen what the structures can do to actually secure that what Claes is referring to not going to happen. Do you have any comment on that? The meaning of the system that we're working?
Well, I think that we have different roles. I was talking about consultants. They have one role quite often connected to some kind of developer, but they are really important to interpret the goals and the visions from the public sector to the private sector. They are very important as some kind of interpreter. But then the municipalities, it's different in Sweden now compared to Ukraine, because in the Swedish municipalities there are a lot of knowledge doing legal plans. So if we should cooperate in any way, I think we have to cooperate on all layers. The regional level is not that important in Sweden so far, but maybe it will become more important each way. But national, regional, municipality, and private, we have to find a way to communicate and work together. But with the long-term perspective, I think that's maybe the key for success, is that working with a long-term perspective. Or you can also say you can also say that we have worked in divisions and north. They have to have two thoughts in their mind at the same time. Producing housing for people who are there now, building, constructing, and the other thought is for people who will live there permanently. I think that would be quite familiar in the rebuilding process in Ukraine. You have to do something now, immediately. But then you also have the long-term perspective at the same time. And to get this to cooperate as much as possible, that's important. I mean, you can't use the constructing companies' concrete buildings for the long-term solution. You have to build a fabric that can host the projects in long-term perspective. So I think that's what we do.
You have to see the consequences, to dare to talk about the consequences that we know will come.
And that is about political leadership, I think. And so we heard about the law that you are maybe adopting in the parliament think that's really a dangerous way.
Now we have a few people here who are ready to complete.
Per Mikael, will you distribute the word?
Well, I think Johannes Kuvat was the first to ask for the word or open his screen at least. So please, Johannes.
I don't know if I wanted to say anything, but I just maybe most and foremost, I wanted to thank for a fantastic day. You hear me?
We hear you. Hi, hello,
Yeah.
Johannes.
Hi. No, and just a reflection on maybe on the day and this quite unbelievable, how can I put it, the contrast between identity and the new language for urban design and architecture, and comparing to Poland and the reconstruction after the war, it was going back to something. But I find it most problematic and also fantastic to understand this complexity of building the new out of something still a little bit unknown. Because what is the past history of Ukraine in built fabric? And maybe one thing a reflection of today would be to say that most buildings are not evil, and some urban designs are evil, one could say, and they are not human. But most buildings have something quite human in them, and that is something which also needs to be reflected and also respected, I think, in the upcoming months and years ahead. And that is actually going straight back to memories. Memories are complex issues, and so are urban designs and reconstruction as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for being part of this.
Thank you, Johannes. We have room for one more person to comment.
Yeah, so now actually Piotr asked to say something, but maybe I also would like to, like Igor and Luca could say something. But,
okay, you...
but Piotr wants to say.
Yes, okay.
Greetings from Poland, first of all. I'm glad you mentioned Poland many times as an exemplary country where reconstruction took place. I'm a personality, quite interesting personality, because I'm Ukrainian i ja dobrze говорю po-ukraiński, хочу привітати всіх колегів з України, but I take the conversation in English. But I also speak Polish. I'm a Swedish chartered architect and I work for a Swedish company. And I'm educated as an urban designer. I've been working on a large construction site, and I'm currently working as a computational designer for a Swedish company. And I have a skills that keeps me employed. But on the other hand, I would like to be very helpful. It's my national duty to take part in the reconstruction of the Ukraine. Therefore, I would like to offer my skills, but I wouldn't know where to start. This is the first place I'm showing my face. And I definitely, the first person I would like to contact would be Oleg Drozdov. But I wouldn't even know how to start the conversation and send some sort of my personal resume asking how I could be helpful to which part I could join. I have been working in many countries, and I know also different countries have a different speed of work. And I have been working for a medium-sized company in Sweden. And I know that by the time the Swedes do a concept, the Brits do the complete scheme design and shop drawings. So my also...
Yeah, please please touch a bit on the reflection on the day. We will happily reconnect you with some of the people that have been part of today, and thank you for that. But do you have a comment on what we have heard today? I would be very happy about that.
Yes, I mean, I was very much interested in learning how Swedes are will be contributing in the process. Is going to be also only a theoretical knowledge, or is also going to be a participation of the Swedish design companies?
Maybe that's for you answer.
But Per Mikael, please step in and
yes,
then you have, yeah.
So very briefly, I think this will of course be a multi-layer collaboration. The purpose of this project that we're doing now is to first establish contact and to understand better Ukraine, and to inform the next step, which will be out of the hands of Architects Sweden. We are a small actor, we are the professional organization, so we cannot, so to speak, create jobs. This is not our task, but we will help architects in the market to have good jobs. This is our task. And we already see now that there's a lot of things happening on the ground in terms of companies looking into market opportunities and all kinds of research collaboratives and investments questions. We have questions for the next seminar from the big investments bank to be part of this process. We informed about the planning framework. So I'm very optimistic about the opportunities that will arise for people like you to have good tasks and a good future as soon as we stabilize this conflict and get rid of the missiles, get safety for the Ukrainian people. But of course, we have to have this double agenda. So welcome. So thank you. And then just, I would like to, well, I think for Igor, I would like to hear also.
So you would pass the word to Igor. So please, Igor, welcome.
Ви мені слово надаєте?
Is it me who I should speak, right?
Please.
Чутно мене, так? Так, я вибачаюсь, я трошки російською.
Sorry, I will speak Russian. It will be more convenient for me. Dear colleagues, I want to say for us, Ukrainian cities, we have key problematic. Ukrainian cities has not lived through Middle Age history. That's why I exclude the history of western part of Ukraine, who went through that history through Poland or Austrian, or Ivano-Frankivsk city, all the city in western Ukraine that had been under other influences. Any European person, he understands that comes with the milk of mother, some things that so understandable for European person, we don't understand. Like today, we've been talking about total urbanism and total architecture. And I see some risks in that we again will put back Soviet urbanism and Soviet architecture looking a little bit better. But the only possibility not to do those mistakes and not to repeat those mistakes is to come to make a neighborhood community, create a neighborhood community in our cities and professional organizations. And like we've been talking about our project, that industrial co-working, because that's what we want to do. So if we don't form our territorial communities, which is the cell and basis for free city, for European city, in my understanding, we will continue live is post Soviet cities and just prolong our Soviet heritage, Soviet past. And we work a lot on local self-governance with Kyiv centers. All these attempts to promote them, they face hindrance of post-Soviet heritage because they talk about this territorial communities, but they don't really working. So we have the opportunity to use war and work in this direction with those people who lost their houses. I want to use all the social and technological experiences that Europe has. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Ruth, would you please touch upon today and comment?
Yeah, thank you very much, my dear colleagues. Hello, Michael. I didn't have a chance to say hello through the screen. I'm also very happy and thankful for today's program that was really, really inspiring. So as a member of a council of Architects Council of Europe, I am very happy to hear that you here, most of you are architects, that you are also coming with the same values that Architects Council of Europe has defined when it is about help to Ukrainian colleagues, because I can hear you talking about sustainable redevelopment of the country and also fairness and also making tailor-made solutions, not copy-paste, not copy-paste something from Europe, but co-creation through the discussions with Ukrainian colleagues. So this is one thing to say. And of course, as Michael said, that there are many, many things going on the ground regarding this topic. So I will just use 1 minute to announce about some initiatives that maybe could be of your interest. Maybe you have heard about European Bauhaus initiative. So NEB has a certain lab that is dedicated to Ukraine especially. And last week in this NEB lab Ukraine, we had launched a series of webinars that are dedicated to a capacity building of Ukrainian local authorities. So unfortunately, you as architects cannot participate in those webinars, but this is just for you to know that there is a program which aims to educate local authorities about how to make quality design processes in your city. So probably you would know about the cities who are following the same values and who could be your partners in implementing your ideas. And another project which I'm very happy to announce is a joint project of European architectural organizations and 3 organizations from Ukraine, which is supported by Creative Europe program. It is Yuri Herit, Architects for Heritage in Ukraine, Recreating Memory and Identity. So identically the same topics that you were discussing today. And me, myself and Michael, we are part of this project. I will not use your time on presentation, just stay tuned. And I'm very happy that this initiative started by Swedish architects was partly a reason to inspire for the application of this project that will last 3 years from now on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And now
that was the thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. And now I would like to take the opportunity to thank you all for participating today, wherever you are and wherever you come from. I have learned a lot. I have a lot to learn. And I would like, Michael, thank you very much. And also thank our interpreter, and help me now.
Translator.
Translator, sorry. Who has done a magnificent job. I'm super impressed. I'm so thankful for that. But Michael, please help us to wrap this day up and tell us what's around the corner.
Yes, so I have to be in the camera, I guess.
Yes, you do. Please.
So I take the stage. So yes, thank you for the panel. Thank you for being with us today. I feel so uplifted and well, hopeful despite all the terrible things that we see every day. I think my main task now is to announce the next seminar, which will be in Gothenburg on June 1. And then the theme will be sustainability, a very broad theme, which of course means we can put in a lot of useful things that we will learn from this seminar. So tomorrow, I and a few other architects here will talk together with our guests and also we online to penetrate what we can draw out of this and be useful for the next seminar. And then we also have a dialogue with the city architect of Gothenburg and his assistant, Simon Wallqvist, who will be responsible for the next program in Gothenburg, which will also be in relation to their 400-year anniversary and 1 week of celebration of architecture. So we are very proud to start this week and next time. But of course, we hope also that this can be very productive and useful, like this seminar. And there are a few things that are coming up now. And one is about regulations, the planning system in Ukraine, where we have a special collaboration with Salar to make investigation and report about that. So they will reward Ukrainian experts to make this report. And then I also got contact yesterday from NEFCO, who has Swedish funding of something like 500 million kronor to build 600 or 1,000 social housing around Ukraine. And they are encountering big problems about how to do that. So they want to discuss with us how to frame this in terms of local planning, I guess, and how to deal with that problem that they now see on the ground, because they are already in action. And it's an urgent demand from the European Union that these houses should be built by the end of this year. So it's a kind of urban construction logic that now evolves, which we need to cope with. So I think this will be a core issue for the next time, but also, as Christer brought down, the issue of sustainability, and that we actually need to think about what kind of buildings, the impact for the environment that these buildings will have in the long term. This issue is addressed in all these projects, but we really need to get the best resources into this process now. I guess also through the help of our architect and through the help of many other agencies in Sweden that you can connect us with and collaborate with. And I also know that there are many Swedish architects who are very eager to join that in different ways to contribute with their knowledge and pilot projects that we're doing in Sweden and that we can collaborate with. And I already know that there are some of these processes now starting, so we should really promote that in all the ways we can. That was my message for the closure of this conference. So thank you very much for attending from Ukraine and from Sweden and here in Stockholm.
Thank you.